Hello, my name is Ian Dean. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the tools that have been added to Meshbaker that make baking very large scenes a little easier. So let's look at this Angry Bots scene. There's, I think, about 2,600 separate meshes in this scene. So it would be a lot of work to bake this scene, to go through and find the various objects using different shaders and group those together. Is there an easier way? So let's look at some of the tools that make this manageable. So first we create a Meshbaker object because it allows us to access those tools. I click on it, and the first thing I want to do is run this report. Open to this list shaders in scene report. So what this does is it crawls through the entire scene, finding every mesh, and tells us what material, what shader it uses. It also analyzes the meshes and looks for things that might cause problems with baking. So here's the report. It's far too large to look at in here. It's designed to be copy and pasted into a spreadsheet. So if we come over here, I've already copy and pasted it in. So if you look at it, you can see it's organized this by shader. And so here's the diffuse shader. These are the objects that use it. It tells us what light map those objects are on, whether those objects are static or not, whether they have overlapping submeshes, out of bound view UVs, multiple materials, what material they use, and any warnings that Meshbaker generates that means that Meshbaker might find this hard. So here's an example, Cliff Rock. This has UVs outside the range, which is basically tiling. So Meshbaker can only include that with other objects. These are all on a light map, use the same light map, but there are objects that use different light map. Now this report is basically organized into objects that would bake well together. So that begs the question, well, if Meshbaker can already organize my objects into objects that would bake well together, can it automatically generate the Meshbakers and configure those for me? And the answer is yes, it can. So that's what this auto generate bakers tool does. So if I look at the tools, the first thing I have to do is pick a folder where all the combined material and the generated result materials are going to go. So let's pick that folder. Then included objects must be static. So in this, that works very well on a scene like this, where Unity has been good about flagging the static objects. So we won't pick up the dynamic ones. Light mapping, in this case, let's preserve the light mapping, and then I can just click Generate Bakers. So Meshbaker is crawling through the scene, basically doing the same thing it did when it generated the report, except this time it's actually creating Meshbakers. It's creating the combined material assets and the result material, and it's configuring the settings on the result material assets, picking the shader and such. It takes, in a big scene like this, it'll take 30 seconds or so. And it pays attention to things like light, in this case light mapping. Okay, so created 65 bakers, added 2,979 objects. So you can see those bakers here in the scene, and I can flick through those and see essentially what it's created. So in a real-world case, I would probably look through these. There are some bakers in here that I probably don't want. I think it probably picks it up. So then I've done that. The next step is to bake every Meshbaker in scene. So there's 65 of them. This is going to take a little while, so I will click this and edit the video and come back when it's done baking.